Hello, I'm Lauren, and welcome to Improving the World. I'm an international improviser based in Hong Kong, and I speak to amazing improv women all over the world. Today, I talked to Christiane Brew, a British citizen in Tokyo, Japan, and we're looking at producing shows, and more specifically, especially because she's in Tokyo as an expat, what that expat scene does to putting on a show. Some tips and tricks coming your way. I hope that you enjoy. And I have with me Christiane Brew. Hello.
Hello, Lauren.
How you doing?
Good. Lovely. Super. Wonderful.
I'm overwhelmed by the goodness. You are follow me here, actress, improviser, storyteller, and stand-up. But furthermore, you produce in all of these regions, hence the microphone sticking out of my cabeza. So we're going to talk today about production and how to craft and create and put on a show successfully, one would hope. So tell me, please, first and foremost, what are the main barriers or hurdles that you have found when trying to produce a show?
Producing a show, particularly in Tokyo, would be finding a venue. Venues, as I'm sure they are in Hong Kong, are super expensive, and venue owners like you to pay a lot of money or guarantee a certain amount of income at the bar. Improv world, we don't really make a lot of money, so we can't guarantee that. I work a lot with local, like British bars, and there are some venues that really welcome people in. So I work a lot with them because there are less barriers, A, language-wise, and B, culture as well. They understand how the foreign community work, and they're ready and prepared to have a bunch of foreigners and Japanese come into their venues.
I completely hear you on the venue, and especially to do with the money side of it. Is that, would you say, the number one for show production, or do you have a little checklist of a couple of things, or is it like find a venue and the rest will fall into place?
For me, the biggest thing is venue. I sometimes produce visitors into Tokyo and they say, oh, can I do a show? And we'll, split the door. And I'm like, hey, it's not that easy. Because if the venue isn't available, then I can't wave any magic wand. So I've got a selection of venues around Tokyo that I use. If I go outside of those venues, it costs money.
What I would say as well to the venue thing is the location feels so important, how close it is to whatever your city is, a metro hub, so that the right kinds of people are going to come to the show. So it's the right day of the week, time at the venue at that point in time. So it is about the venue. But if you find that right venue, I've also found that certain bar owners or venue owners are more willing to help with things like marketing. They'll put your poster up on their Facebook or something. And some people are just like, show me the money, do the show, and peace out. And so you're right. It feels like it's all coming back to the venue and the humanity behind the venue.
Yeah. And if you want me to put a good show on, then I'm going to need a little bit back from the owner. I'm really fortunate that I work with some really good venues. But you're right about the location, because in Tokyo is enormous. And there's this thing of like, it takes an hour to get anywhere, door to door, which is true. Even if it's somewhere in Shibuya, which is 6 stops from my house, I've still got to leave my house, take the train, and then walk to the venue the other side. There's not always direct train routes, so you've got to change trains, or you've got to get a bus and then a train. So it's about catching that right hub where you can catch tourists, but also the local residents who are the ones that keep you going, and also who are your cast. You want to keep them happy.
You and I are both expats in the communities in which we live. And so we both have put on shows in other places before. What do you think is the identifier, or what differentiates putting on a show, producing a show in an expat community space versus somewhere where you are native to the culture, language, and location?
Interesting. The only other English-speaking country I've produced in is New Zealand. So I relied a lot on local knowledge, and there wasn't really a barrier for me. I attended an improv show. I really liked the venue. I'd been over there and done a tour, Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch. In Auckland, I did one of my storytelling workshops, and the participants were so cool and their stories were so cool. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if I could actually give them a platform to voice these fabulous stories? I'd been to a couple of venues in Auckland, and there's one I particularly liked, which would suit the intimacy of a storytelling event, comedy storytelling, not like, oh, illness event.
That's where your mind went. That was like the definite opposite of comedy: illness.
Illness, death, the things I learned from cancer, and they have their places, but I'm about making audiences smile. You can still have a lesson, you can still learn something from everyone's story, but I prefer it to have a comedic element. So I arranged everything remotely with this wonderful venue, intimate, sorted out the sound, the lighting. So you just have to check that everything is there. Advertising wise, I'm a bit of a Facebook whiz when it comes to the advertising and promotion. If Facebook is the medium that that country uses, for example, in London, Instagram is how people promote shows. Asia, Facebook. It's about understanding how to reach your audience. That's the other barrier, I guess, because if you don't understand that, then no one's going to come to your show. Empty audience.
Yeah, I feel like part of the concept of the expat community sometimes is, we already talked about where they hang out, so the location being part of it. Sometimes if we have worked with a venue, which the venue tailors more to locals, you'll get locals and then maybe they don't get the content that we're doing. So we might get people through the door, but they don't vibe with what it is that we're producing. So having a really clear understanding of your product and who you are looking for, and then crafting the show and the location and the marketing and everything for that audience. Couched within my question of why is this different in an expat community? I don't know what you think, but for me, because they're expats, the community is therefore smaller. So you've just narrowed down your potential audience to this much smaller piece of the pie. So you have to get a higher percentage of that piece of the pie than if you were in New Zealand where it's all native English speaking. You just throw a wider net. I think you have to try a little harder. I don't know. Do you agree?
There's pros and cons with each. So if you're in a native speaking country, you've still got to try and find people that are interested in improv or interested in storytelling, or if it's a storytelling show, you need to market it towards people that like literary things. In an expat community, Facebook advertising for me, I've had to be quite specific in some areas in order to attract people in Tokyo. Our expat community is way more spread out. Whereas in New Zealand, the community that was interested in the storytelling event, for example, were in that local Auckland catchment. So it's a drive away, a bus ride away. Tokyo, much different. And you're finding needles in haystacks. I'm meeting people now who are spotting the show and they're saying, oh my God, you've got a new show. This is great. I'm like, no, I've been around. Oh, really? Because I think the Facebook algorithms are working differently now because of obviously the COVID stuff. So my content is reaching different people, or people are just spending more time on Facebook.
I'm really hearing you say that it's important to figure out your advertising targeting so that you can get those needles where they are and bring them in.
It's not just about finding the audience to bring them in. It's also finding the audience because you know that they will enjoy it and it will enrich their life. So it's about spreading the love and the happiness, if you like, because it's tough being an expat and it's lonely sometimes. So sharing your joy.
And because I'm clearly financially minded, if you give someone a good show, then hopefully they will come back. And that is the easiest advertising if you get them the first time and then they are so happy that they come back of their own volition and you don't need to spend advertising dollars on them again. They're now a happy customer who wants to come back.
No, it doesn't work like that in Tokyo, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah, there's a niche group of like super fans, we call them, that are dedicated and they'll come to every show. But Tokyo people can be quite flippant because there's so much happening throughout every single night of the week. Plus, shift work, different work commitments, different family commitments. I've got a call with the UK tonight, so I can't come out. You know, life changes week to week. Oh, and working late as well. People work late, drop of a hat if they're working for a Japanese company. So you lose them because they're like, I can't get there in time because it's going to take me an hour and a half to get to the venue because I work here. I still have to do the advertising. I recognize people that come back maybe 2 or 3 months down the line. I guess it's a way of making them feel welcome so they know it's okay to have 2 months off and then come back.
Taking our geography out of it, talk to me about show production as a general statement, and let's bring gender into this discourse. So do you think that producing a show, whether it's a stand-up show, a liars storytelling show, improv, whatever it is different for you as a person who identifies as a woman?
I would love to say, no, it's not. It's completely the same for men and women, but that's a complete fib. I do think it's more difficult as a female. I've seen gentlemen in Tokyo who are not very experienced start to produce shows. All they do is they go up to the venue owners and they're like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And they can talk the talk, they can give the confident spiel. Females, even though I have many years experience and I'm known on several circuits, I still have to push a little bit harder, I think. I'm very fortunate now because I've learned no one else is going to sing your praises unless you sing them yourself. So I will approach things in more of a masculine way, unfortunately, and just sort of say, well, I've done this show, I've brought in this amount of money, this number of punters. So I want to do a show with you now. I think this is a good venue. So I'll sell it to them that they need me more than I need them. And they take the bait. It's approaching it from a different angle. And I think females, well, particularly in expat communities, because we're from so many different backgrounds, I don't think they push themselves or they don't believe in themselves to be able to pull something off in a community.
Just to unpack this a little bit, are we talking about challenges in a culture or society where there's chauvinism built in? Are we talking about women as a general statement, whether it's in Canada or Australia or Zimbabwe, and how women are approaching this? Are we talking about bar owners are mostly men? Is it all of these things?
Interesting. Yeah. So I can't speak for the rest of the world.
Speak for Zimbabwe. I request it.
I'm going to speak for Tanzania.
I'll allow it.
I think women in any country don't get to that point where they say, I'm going to do a show. This is what I want to do. I have this vague idea. That's what I want to do. How am I going to do it? I have no idea, but I'm going to get the venue first and then I'm going to do it. Gentlemen, on the other hand, very much, yep, I've got an idea. I'm just going to see how it goes, which is a fantastic attitude. Because do it, fail, learn, do it again. A lot of the bar owners are men that I've worked with. Does that matter? I think your language has to be different. You have to be more direct because they don't do fluff.
Give me an example of the fluff. What's the fluff?
So British, we add softeners, modifiers, and we fluff up our words rather a lot. So, hi, I was just wondering whether or not you would be interested in perhaps having a show at your venue. I've produced many shows before, for example, X show, Y show, and Z show. I've been quite successful. Would you consider this possibility?
Now give me the less fluffy version.
The example I gave before. Hi, so I work in performance. I'm a producer. I have brought over several people. I've produced EDS. I've produced Perfect Liars show. I do stand-up. I do improv. I want to do a show in your venue because I think it's the best for my product. So it's using different types of language in order to communicate in their language. And I think non-British people are good at doing this. We're quite fluffy.
Filler words and disclaimers. You added specific examples, whether it was monetary or it was about actual shows that you've done and dates and what have you. I think that's really good. So you took out fluff language and you added specificity.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that I missed?
Confidence when you speak.
Culturally appropriate and thoughtful. You're going to do it differently in Japan than I'm going to do it in Hong Kong.
If I was working with a Japanese owner, yes. I work mainly with non-Japanese owners, so you can be more Western. If it was a Japanese owner, then cultural layers, and you have to be, excuse me, perhaps I would like to do a show at your venue. So you do have to be less diverse.
Yeah. Navigate the challenges. You've figured out, you've clocked it, and you've got like a tick box of this is how to do it, this is how to be successful. What have your fears been, or do you have fears, or have you heard other women tell you that in trying to get a show off the ground, they've had fears or worried?
A good friend of mine, Luana, who I do Lady Bits with, she basically co-runs Stand Up Tokyo for stand-ups. She did the door, and then she did a Perfect Liars story, which gave her the confidence to go and try stand-up. And now she basically posts all the events, passes the shows. And I think her struggle has been when she sets the cast for the shows, she will get a lot of comeback. This happened quite regularly And she went to the co-runner, who's a gentleman, and she said, look, this keeps happening. Does this happen to you? And he said, no, never. I said, okay. So she had to change. She had to entertain their responses less. She had to be more direct and say, well, this is the lineup. So if you want a spot, accept it. If you don't, then I'll give you a spot to someone else.
And how do you successfully cast and get a good balance of performers?
Yeah. For example, for Perfect Liars show, which is a comedy story interrogation show, 4 people tell a story, but only 3 are true. And the audience have to interrogate and work out who the liar is in the second half. So how do I cast that? I like to have 2 men, 2 women for gender balance, or non-binary. I'm not fussed, really, but I like to have a nice balance. There are enough shows in Tokyo and around the world with just men. In fact, I'm quite happy if a Perfect Liars show is 3 women and 1 man. In the early days, that would never happen. It would always be the gentleman who would say, yeah, I'll do it. I've got a great story. You'll love this story. And it turns out I possibly don't love the story, but let's see if we can work together to make it better. I get a little bit of pushback on coaching because they know their story best. Whereas in fact, I know the story style that is needed for the show. So you get some pushback and people think, well, why is she telling me what I know is best? In the early days, the women, I'm going a little bit off topic here, Lauren.
I'll bring you back in a sec, don't worry.
I'm sorry. I would get less women coming forward because they didn't believe that they could stand up and tell a story. So there was a lot of mentoring happening, if you like. I'd get an inkling that somebody did, but didn't have the confidence or weren't brave enough. I would drip feed them confidence, like, try it. Just do it. You have a story. I know you have a story. Just try it. Speak to your friends. Do it. You're going to feel amazing after. Don't worry. I can coach you. I can take you through it. You'll feel great. Don't worry. And sure enough, they would jump in. They'd do their story and they'll be like, oh my God, that was the best experience ever. Thank you so much. And I've even got business from coaching stories.
Am I getting this correct that when you're casting, you know what parody you want on stage? And the casting is not just putting up a notice on a notice board and seeing who comes in and choosing the best of that. It's about knowing what your end goal of performance is and then leading breadcrumbs appropriately for the right people. Taking a couple who apply, maybe who you go, yeah, great, but coaxing others into it. So if you just put a notice up, you would have got certain people, but actually to make sure that you have equal casting, and you've mentioned gender, but I'll also throw into it cultural background, potentially language, depending where you are, perspectives, all the different things. So you're thinking about how to have equality across your performers and you're yanking them in. Did I get it right?
It's that a lot of the time. I will also approach people directly. If I've seen them perform or if I know they've got a good attitude and they'll be easy enough to work with, you can always tell if someone's going to be a pushbacker. Even females, I'm not saying women are exempt from this. There are some women that cannot receive direction. They get very defensive. You try and work with that. It's a lot of effort. I'm not paid to be a coach. So I like to have the balance of gender. I like to have the balance of story content, of experience. For example, last month, everybody had told at least one story live before, and some have also a continuous stage experience. So confidence in front of the camera, which is what I wanted, because it's a new medium, new for the audience, for the performers. This show, I approached people in different countries. So I've actually gone outside of Japan because why not? And they're people that I've done improv with before that I felt a connection and joy to work with. I don't want to work with anyone that
is
I
a
don't.
butthead.
Oh, a butthead, yeah.
No buttheads allowed.
Yeah, go away, butthead.
Yeah.
So they're all people I want to work with, and I know they do a good job.
Now, wrapping us up, and you can keep this about production or you can change it as you see fit. What are your words of wisdom?
Easy. Try, fail, learn, do it again, fail, learn, do it again.
Rinse, repeat.
Just do that. And if something is not happening or if something is not available that you want to do, then make it yourself. Make it happen yourself. No one else is going to do it. So do it yourself. You're responsible for your own happiness, your own enjoyment.
There's a Buckminster Fuller quote, which I will butcher now, but it is something along the lines of find the thing that no one else in this world can bring, and you bring it. So you're here, your reason, your raison d'être, if I can just butcher some French now as well, is about contributing the thing that no one else is going to, so that it will be. And that's how you sort of find your ikigai, your happiness.
Yeah, your ikigai.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, if folks are in the general Tokyo region, depending on prefecture and the winds, and they want to come and see a show, lie or interrogate liars, they want to watch the Pirates of Tokyo Bay do some improv, hang out with you and buy you, I don't know, what are people into right now, matcha tea or something, or they want to just generally throw money at you. No, we're not matching.
I was thinking more sake. But
oh, okay. Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, however sassy you're feeling. How can people get a hold of you and find you?
Facebook is huge in Asia. So Christiane Brew on Facebook. It's a public account for most things. That's where I put all my shows. If they want to buy me a virtual cup of coffee, then I do have a Ko-fi account, --Christiane Brew.
Oh, what a good coffee pun. Oh my God, we opened up the heavens right now. Have you clocked that already?
No.
So good. There's so much to be done with this. You need to play on this now.
I associate it with beer for some reason, but you're right. Coffee,
yeah.
Brew coffee.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yeah. Or a porter, a nice deep porter would have coffee notes. And so then you could have coffee notes in a beer. But anyways, I don't even drink beer. What am I talking about? It was so wonderful to speak with you and hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. See you in Japan soon.
Yeah, or in Hong Kong. You're so welcome here.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Or we could meet in the middle in Taiwan or something.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. This is Improving the World. I'm Lauren, and there's more where that came from. Bye. So, did you love the video? If you did, please say kind of beautiful things in the comments down below. And you could subscribe if you're feeling sassy and look for more Improving the World. Thanks.